I think, it's hard because there's no, as I'm sure you speak about a lot, there's no solution to balance. It's just finding out what works for you. And I think ensuring that you're not doing what the person next to you is doing, because we're all so different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's less of the fact that there's no solution. I think it's more there's no one size fits all, and it's not a static concept, right? It's constantly changing. So you could feel, okay, I'm super balanced now because I know what my body needs in down times and whatever, but that's going to change as well. So I think when I think of balance, it's really like that flexibility piece.
I've realized that, as you said, the perfect balance doesn't exist. You've got to kind of have a flexible balance, and it's got to be what works for you. And I think with health, as I said earlier, I'm someone that eats chocolate every day. Not everyone can do that, and not everyone likes doing that. But for me, that works for my mental health and everything. I know it's not the most nutritious food, but it makes me happy, and it's my favorite way to end the day.
Welcome to The Balance Theory, a podcast aimed at arming you with tools and tips so that you are well equipped to not only identify and define, but own your own definition of balance. I'm your host, Erica, and thank you for joining me today. Hey Balancers, and welcome back to episode 54 of the Balance Theory podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, an extremely warm welcome to you. Otherwise, welcome back. Now, I firstly just wanted to start off by saying, how is your balance? Now, I know if you've been living in a major city, especially those in Australia like Sydney or Melbourne, this can feel really, really tumultuous, really unstable at the moment. But it's really important to continuously check in with yourself and those around you. And don't be frustrated. Go easy on yourself and know that this is a very strange time for everybody. But I suppose the good news is October's looking like things are going to be eased and we'll be returning to some sort of normalcy. So I just wanted to check in, see how you're going, and let you know that my heart is with you all. And just to serve as that gentle reminder that if you don't feel, quote, balanced right now, that is so fine. Now, I'm absolutely honored to introduce today's guests. There've been two I've been dying to interview, and I'm extremely humbled to have had them on the show. I'm talking about none other than Steph Claire Smith and Laura Henshaw, co-founders and besties of Keep It Cleaner. So I'm sure many of you will have encountered the girls either online, maybe through their app, through some recipes, through some workouts. They do so many incredible things. And what I absolutely adored about today's chat, and actually about the girls themselves, is they're so incredibly humble and genuine. They really didn't hesitate to be raw with me on the show today, and they take me back to a time where their experience with health, diet and exercise was not necessarily balanced or healthy at all, and how that process and that journey has really formed and shaped, I think, the boundaries and the framework of what KIC aims to do today. So their business that they co-run is really aimed at promoting self-acceptance, sustainable health choices, and as well just how to be confident in your own skin. I absolutely love what the girls are doing with Keep It Cleaner. So I've popped links to the Instagram and their website below for you guys to check it out. But I guess a little bit about what you can expect on today's podcast is we spoke a little bit about what lockdown has actually taught them the most, and how slowing down was really an opportunity to learn more about oneself. We talk about all the different hats that the girls wear and what's been their favorite. Steph shares a little bit about the mum guilt for going back into work too soon or not, and how that really underpins our balance. The three of us share some personal experiences that have really helped us shape our own relationship with health and exercise. And I think a little tangent off that is that balance is a journey and one of acceptance. And so we really go deep in rethinking the whole work-life balance framework. Laura shares a little bit about her motivation in finishing a degree, even though she already had a successful business. We talk about the power of having an influence, limiting beliefs, and last but not least, a little bit about how to deal with negativity. So that's not just limited to, say, online negativity or social negativity. It's also about self-negativity. So to be honest with you all, this was probably my favorite part of the episode, and it's right at the end. So stay tuned for that. I know you guys are going to absolutely love today's episode, so get your notes or pen and paper out and get ready to take some incredible points away from today's show. If you do love this and want to share with us what your favorite part was, take a screenshot, tag myself and the girls. I've popped their handles in the show notes below so we can see exactly what you resonated with, and I'm so excited for you to get your ears across this one. Just before we dive in, if you haven't had a chance to leave us a review or rating on Apple Podcasts, it would mean the absolute world to me. I get such a thrill from reading your thoughts and your feedback. So whether you're driving, walking, or just vegging out, I always love seeing how the podcast helps you along your journey to balance and what you love most, so we can keep bringing you that. Thanks again for choosing to spend your time with me, and let's dive straight in.
Alrighty, today I'm joined by the beautiful Steph and Laura, co-founders of Keep It Cleaner on the Balance Series podcast. Welcome. It's an honor to have you both on today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Erica. We're so excited to chat. We love the podcast. We're just talking before we got on the mics about how the concept is so important. So thank you for all that you do, and we're so excited to chat.
Thank you so much. And right back at you, girls. I thought before we jump into, I guess, the content of what I want to chat with you girls about today, I thought it'd be fun to get to know you a little bit. I'll just ask you some quick fire questions. You can just tell me a little something about yourselves that hopefully not everybody knows. So my first question is, what is your favorite go-to meal?
Oh. You go first. Actually, I'll go first. I am obsessed. We have this recipe on KIC. It's our one pan halloumi baked chicken, and I make it so much that it's like the team's like, okay, you need to calm down with this recipe. We have all these other ones, but I am obsessed with it. So that's my go. We have it sometimes twice a week.
Anything in one pan is a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's actually one pan dish too. It's the Mediterranean tray bake. It's so delicious. And it's a KIC recipe. Yeah.
What goes in that?
There's like olives, feta, chicken, tomatoes, and it all just kind of roasts together. It's delicious.
Yum. I'm going to have to check both those out. I feel like whenever I get to like cooking, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to cook. And then I always hear all these amazing recipes. I'm like, I need to mentally note these. Okay, good. 2 for me to experiment with. Now on the flip, what's your favorite cheat meal?
Oh, I mean, so the funny thing is with the word cheat is like, I 100% used to look at food like that. I used to put food in a basket of like cheat meal or stuff that I would feel guilty over. And then the other basket was full of like, wholesome, nutritious food. My diet is so, I suppose, balanced, for lack of a better word now. And I would say my favorite would have to be chocolate, because I have it literally every day. But I love that I've come to a point where it's not cheap food for me anymore. It's not like I wait one day a week to treat myself to it. It's just something that makes me happy. So I've worked out a way to keep it in my daily diet with a nice balance.
No, absolutely. And I'm with you there on not kind of claiming food as good or bad. I think I say the word cheat as in, when you get to that point of the month,
it helps.
You just need something just to get you over the line, or you just want to shove something extra into your diet. But yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Laura, what about you? What's yours?
I think if I could live off one thing and nutritional value didn't matter, it would be hot chips.
Hot chips.
Me too.
10 times chicken salt. Like all this, every time we order it, we literally write on the Uber Eats thing, like, please put. Now we write 5 times because they just don't understand.
2 times wasn't enough, hey?
We used to write 3 times. Now we write 5 times. We still have to add more.
You sound like my partner. He literally does the same thing. And once we ordered them, and it came in literally like this little takeaway container full of chicken salt. I'm like, we've got enough heat for the next 5 orders. But yeah, hot chips is a good one, definitely. All right, last one I want to ask. What is the actual exercise, so the actual specific exercise movement that you do not look forward to the most? Like, I'll kick it off. Like, mine would have to be burpees.
Okay, I think we have to answer each other's here. I think that would be
all right. Better. Steph, what's Laura's?
Squat pulses.
Oh, you don't like those? No, they're a love hate.
I'm not a pulse gal. I love burpees, but I don't like anything that's slow and a slow burn.
So you don't love Pilates?
I'm learning
into it.
Yeah, I'm getting into it, but I think squat pulses especially are just like, the pain, and the wall hip raises actually also one of my least favorite things. Again, slow burn.
Yeah.
And yours would be burpees. Is your least favorite?
Yeah. 100%. I feel that one too. All right, awesome. Well, that was just my little warm up, just to get to know you both a little bit. The first thing I wanted to ask you girls, now I know 2020 to 2021 has been a massive spanner in the works. I know for you both personally as well, you've had a lot go on in your personal life. You've had weddings, postponed weddings, we've had babies, we've had, new things come out on your app. So much has happened. So I just wanted to know, just to kick it off, what has been the most that this period has taught you?
Oh, good question. I think when I was reflecting on this, I think one thing would be the power of kindness and how much we need it to get through hard times. And then I suppose within that, how truly resilient we are as humans. I think especially 2021. 2020 was a year that we were like, can't wait till it's over. 2021 is going to be the best. We just need to get through this time. And now
Didn't know it was a
and
warm
now
up.
we're back here. 100%. We're back here again. And especially, Erica, you're in Sydney, aren't you?
Yeah.
So especially, I mean, for you guys in Sydney, I mean, you're going through what we went through last year, and it's so hard. And now, I mean, in Melbourne, we're back here again. At least there's a little bit of hope, at the end of this year. But yeah, I think one quote that I have seen a lot on social media that I think has been a really helpful quote to get through this year is that you survived 100% of your bad days. And I think it's quite a sad quote, but I think when you as a lot of us have, when we're having those hard days in lockdown, which is completely normal because it's been so hard on everyone, to remember that, we got through last year. It's September, we're in the 9th month, we've nearly got through this year. So we can, we're nearly there, and we are just so resilient.
Yeah, I love that. And that point about kindness as well. I think it's really hard not being around people. I feel like that's when we find it easiest to be kind. But I think now we've really been forced into this online world where it's really not that hard to extend kindness in the same way. And like you said, we're super resilient. And I think if anything, it's a massive testament to society, how we've been able to kind of adapt and shift within that. But I love that. That's beautiful, the concept of kindness. Steph, what would be yours?
I mean, yeah, I would completely agree with everything Laura's just said. And I think on a, I suppose, more personal note, I learned quite a lot about myself. I think having the time to step back and just kind of sit in your own thoughts and have a little bit of extra time. I learned quite a lot. And some of the things I learned was that whilst I have had this incredible hustle bustle life that has been so exciting, and there's days I still crave that, I did learn through lockdown when I was forced to slow down, and a lot of things like my modeling career, stuff like that I couldn't do because shoots weren't going on, or traveling, I couldn't travel, events that we'd usually attend or run ourselves, that wasn't happening either. All of that stuff, kind of stepping back and just doing more of the day-to-day stuff at KIC, working through that, which, that's growing daily as well. There's more to manage there on that side of things as well. So it has changed in the last couple of years. But I think through COVID, it's made me realize that I am someone that likes to take things slowly and to have a little bit of time to have a slow morning, or like have the weekend to do nothing, or to just see friends and not be on all the time, not be switched on online all the time, not be doing something every day, working every day. I think that fueled me for a long time. And I'm actually at a point where I realized that it was making me not kind of put 100% effort in to the things that I really wanted to. So now, because I've stepped back and things are a bit slower, I mean, obviously now I'm a mum, so nothing's really slow anymore. I'm able to put my all into the things that, to me really matter, and that really, really bring me joy, like obviously keep it cleaner, but also when I'm catching up with friends and family, when that did happen in that slight break between lockdowns, I'm really there and I'm present, and I'm not constantly thinking about things like work or what's happening next, because I'm quite content in life right now. Like, I'm really happy with how work is. I'm really happy, with my little family, and I just feel really content. And I think getting through things like lockdown, and obviously we're in the thick of it again now, but it's just made me really appreciate what I do have, and also really appreciate what I have got to do in the past, like travel and everything, and then just be content with where I am now. That's kind of something I learned about myself.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I definitely resonate with what you both said. And I think that for a lot of A-type people, that shift to slow down and not have a social life and not be on all the time was a massive, massive shock to the system. But I can wholeheartedly say as well, I felt that regrounding almost, and it almost forced you to view everything through a lens of gratitude. Like, right, I don't have these things now, my life doesn't suck. Like, we're very lucky if you compare, like we were saying off air, like, you can always find something to compare your situation to, but just to have that moment to reassess, I think was nice. And I actually heard this really great concept on another podcast this morning, and they were talking about boredom and how in our society we actually don't let ourselves be bored, because we're constantly filled with distraction. And I think what being bored does is it just lets your mind wander and kind of, daydream, or just find things to do that are so out of your day-to-day routine. So I think if I could add anything to that, it would be like just letting yourself be bored, I think is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, especially in an age of distraction.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've been seeing a lot of memes lately about, not glamorizing being overworked or overly busy. And I think that's so important, because I think we have gone through a little bit of a stage where it was like really cool to show off how busy you were and how like you never had time for yourself to do. Yeah, exactly. Whereas that can, and that works for some people, but like for a lot of people, that's a lot, and it can really affect their mental and physical health in not a great way if they're constantly trying to do more and more and more. So I think it's important to, I suppose, glamorize finding a little bit of balance as well, and having time, as you said, to be bored.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you, I know you've both worn so many hats, from student to mum to business owner to model to trainer, so many things. I want to know, what's been the favorite hat that you've worn and why?
Steph, do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm obviously not a mum. So I mean, my answer to this is being an entrepreneur, but I also feel like there's so many other hats that I wear in life, with my relationships with other people.
You're the best friend.
Yeah. Thanks. So nice.
Great podcast guest.
That's really important to me. But I think for me, on reflecting about that, and especially right now, if I could define myself kind of as just one thing where I feel the most me, it would be entrepreneur and co-founder of Keep It Cleaner. And I think it's because at KIC we're so lucky we're able to do something that does help people every single day. I think that is extremely fulfilling. I can't imagine working in a business that didn't help. I feel like I wouldn't feel this fulfilled, and this wouldn't be my answer if KIC wasn't the company, or it wasn't a company that kind of helped others. Yeah. And then I think the other thing is, for me, is really breaking down the barrier of what an entrepreneur looks like. And I suppose for Steph and I, first of all, obviously we are very privileged in the fact that we are white women. There are so many marginalized groups that obviously there's still a lot of gender inequality, especially in business in Australia and all around the world. But I just wanted to state that before I kind of got into this. And I think with women in business especially, I feel like looking at the statistics now, we're so far from where we want to be. I checked the Australian government statistics for women in CEO positions and on boards this morning, and at the moment women hold 14.6% of chair positions, 28% of directorships, and represent 18.3% of CEOs. And then 30% of boards and governing bodies have no female directors. By contrast, only 0.4% have no male directors. And I think when you hear statistics like that, and that's current right now in the world that we're living in, I think for me, I feel so fulfilled in hopefully being able to, show young women coming up especially, or anyone, that you don't need to kind of look a certain way or be a certain way to be successful in your career and start a business if that's what you want to do. I think for Steph and I especially, we didn't come from a lot of money or, family connections that helped us set up our business. And that's not taking away from people that did have that. But I just think for young people, if they're looking and thinking, wow, that could never be me, because I'm a woman, or that could never be me because I'm not connected, or whatever it might be, I feel very fulfilled in hopefully trying to, be a part of the change in changing those statistics, because it's, women have so much potential in what we can do and what we can offer in the boardroom and offer in business especially. And I think it's been amazing. I suppose we want to untap that even more. And so I think that's why, I feel very fulfilled in that at the moment.
Love that. And just to preface, like, that question wasn't to say box you into any one of the hats, because I think we can agree. I think we can agree you're both wearing a lot at the moment. I think a lot of people are too. But I think what that answer shows really is the depth that goes into, the labels we place on ourselves. It's not just that you're a business owner. Like, look at all that fulfillment and purpose that comes with it. So that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And Steph, I mean, I want to guess what yours is, but I'll let you tell.
You know what? When I read this question prior to the interview, I really had to stop and think about it, because obviously my natural reaction is to say how much I'm loving motherhood and that I love being a mum. I feel so incredibly lucky. It's something that I've always wanted, and it's been a dream come true so far. So I do absolutely love wearing this hat, and I feel really good. Like even when I make, you know, I'm going to put my fingers up, like what are they called? Apostrophes? No, I'm a bit brain dead.
Quotations?
Quotation marks. Quotation marks. I'm going to blame mum brain. Yeah, like quotation marks, you know, the wrong decisions in motherhood, because really there's no wrong thing to do. You just let your baby survive and you work it out. But when I have made those mistakes, I still feel like I know what I'm doing in a way. And I've been really trusting my instincts and really enjoying this journey. But at the same time, I thoroughly enjoy being a co-founder of Keep It Cleaner. As Laura said, it is so incredibly rewarding working on something that changes people's lives. And I think that there's a bit of a similarity there with my motherhood hat, you know, looking after Harvey and hoping for the best for him and trying to do everything right by him. Everything that we do at KIC is to better the program for our users, to help them in any way to, you know, have a step forward in their fitness journey or to just help them feel better in their own skin. And when you hear the kind of feedback we get from our community members about what it's done and how it's changed their life for the better, it's like you can't not fulfill someone. That it's just the most amazing feeling in the world. And the fact that we get to do that for a living is so special. So yeah, I still very, very much so love wearing the hat of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think what a good point to take away there is, like, I think if anyone listening now as well just looks at, I guess, all the hats they wear in their life, the ones that really fulfill them especially, you'll probably find there is a crossover between those areas. So Laura was telling Steph off air, like my 9 to 5, I'm a lawyer, an in-house lawyer. And then I've got the podcast, and then I also co-run a fitness business called ES Fit with my best friend. And if I look at those three, there are elements of them all, which is helping other people or making an impact in people's lives that have the same carryover in that fulfillment category. So I think, you know, whilst we all might have a favorite, let's say, I think it serves really nicely as a reminder just to have a look at everything you're doing in your life. And if something feels off, it's probably because it doesn't, I guess, fit into that fulfillment of what fulfills you or what your purpose is.
Yeah. And I think I wanted to mention that, you know, I still find work just as fulfilling because I feel like there is this big pressure on mothers, particularly new mums, that they should feel guilty if there's any part of them that wants to go back to work or that doesn't want to spend 100% of their time with their kids.
Yeah, like too soon or
which
quotation.
That pressure just shouldn't exist. I mean, as I said, I've loved stepping back and really stepping into motherhood for now, and that's working for me. But I've also still part-time being back at work because that still fulfills me. Like, I need it in my life. And I just really hope that, you know, anyone listening that's either thinking about, you know, wanting to be a mum but feeling like maybe they can't because they really enjoy work and they feel like if you want to be a mum, then you don't have any other option but to do it full time. It's not the case at all. And vice versa, obviously. The other way around too. Yeah,
that's actually a really nice step into the next question. I feel like when we talk about balance, right, people ordinarily may look and go, okay, work-life balance, that's a formula. How do I get that? How do I strive for that? And so the reason I started this podcast was because when I was looking at that formula, I felt like having that work-life balance, let's say blueprint, right, puts work over here, life over here. Generally speaking, work ain't that enjoyable. Generally speaking, life's pretty enjoyable. And as you would both know, work can be super enjoyable and life can also suck sometimes. So already I didn't like the connotations that underpin both of that separation. And then it also puts this pressure on people to have them 50-50 split. Whereas being entrepreneurs, you would know it's not a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7 type role. And the amount of time and effort you put into a business or your career really does outweigh your personal time, especially if you are a full-time worker. So I had a look at, I guess, what I thought were the most important areas of your life. And I'm all about simplicity. You know, you can find all these formulas and frameworks that have like 8 to 10 different areas and whatnot. But I just really streamlined it and I said, okay, what's important when it comes to our balance? And I really think it comes down to your health, which includes your mental and your physical health. Then you've got your relationships, which are your friendships, your love life, and your family as well. And then your last area, I actually, just before I started the podcast, changed it. So I did have it as career, and I just took a step back and I go, well, who am I excluding? in this framework that won't be able to relate to that. And I thought, I'm going to call that fulfillment, because you have people that are studying full time. Maybe they're blessed enough they can just, kick back and just do whatever they want, volunteer work, etc. So the third category is actually fulfillment. And my take on it is, at any point in life, the way you separate your time or allocate your time across those areas is going to vary. But as long as you have your foot or an egg in each of those baskets at any given point, that's your balance, right? And it's about having that flexibility and saying, okay, at different points in life, I'm going to be able to put more into fulfillment or more into my health or whatever the case may be, as long as that works for you. So bringing it back to what you were just saying, Steph, like you have, I guess, people who become brand new mums and they have that pressure of, am I going back to work too soon? Or, should I stay at home for a bit longer? That guilt, that guilt that comes when you tap into what you quote should be doing. That's sort of what I guess we're trying to pioneer and change, is saying, no, you don't need to feel that guilt, because that could just be what works for you at this point in time. And balance could be more macro. It's seasonal things, to say as you have a newborn or as you start a new business, or it could be just day to day. That balance looks completely different. So that's a little bit about, I guess, what we're trying to do. But I read a quote that I think, Laura, you said on a previous interview, which I think is a really nice segue into KIC and how that really fits nicely with the whole balance theory framework. And it reads like this: we may have looked our healthiest. We were eating 100% healthy and exercising 1 to 2 hours a day, but we weren't healthy at all because our minds were so unbalanced and obsessive. So I guess off the back of that, I really want to know how your concept of balance may have changed since since that time you were speaking about, and what it actually means to you right now.
Yeah, wow, that was when I say a long time ago, that was in my early 20s. I'm now in my later 20s, and that was before we had started Keep It Cleaner. And I suppose I had learned about balance, and it's true. At that time I was overseas and I was modeling, which for me wasn't fulfilling, and also Steph's gonna yell at me for saying this, but I wasn't very good at it. So
she says it every time.
I feel like with what you do, like, when you, as you know, Erica, like with law, for example, when you do your law degree, when you're at school or whatever, you study really hard, and then you get, everyone has got their own natural intelligence that helps them maybe get 100, whereas for me, I was dying to get to 80%. But if I worked really hard, I'd get to that. And with the modeling industry, it wasn't about that. The only thing I could control, being a type A personality and very disciplined, was my body. And when I say I could control that, I had to be extremely unhealthy to be able to get to, this dream weight that I thought would bring me all my fulfillment and happiness in the world. But when I got on the scales and I got to that weight, the only thing that I could think of was, okay, well, I'm still not happy. What else can I change in my body? And so for me, that really taught me, in the moment, absolutely not. It's really important, I think, to acknowledge that this was for me, having a balanced relationship with food and exercise and my body was a journey. It definitely didn't happen overnight. It's easy to reflect back on it now because I'm in such a balanced mindset, but at the time it was really hard, and it's hard to work through it. But I learned that those things, the way that I look, the way my body is, that my weight does not define health for me. And for me, and for most people, also for our actual physical health, exercising 2 hours a day, unless you're working, to go to the Olympics or you're an elite athlete and you're on a program specifically, it's not good for us. It's too much to push your body that much. Also, who has time to do that? And then at the same time, to be that weight, I could hardly eat. And then when you can hardly eat, you have no energy to do anything else in your life. You can't have conversations with people that you love. You can't type anything up because it never makes sense, because you're brain dead because you're not fueling your body. And so that part of my life, yeah, absolutely, I had no balance at all. And so I think it's been amazing with what Steph and I, and what really Steph went through a really similar experience, a little bit different, but also similar. And that enabled us, I think, was sometimes going through hardships is a way that you can connect with people. And that's really how Steph and I connected, and where Keep It Cleaner, I suppose, started. It's come a long way from where it was. But I think once you've been through something like that, and especially with the pressures of social media now, where there's diets everywhere, Steph and I are so passionate about creating, and that's what KIC is. It's a safe place for people to come on and have exercise that they can do that's fun, and it's the 20-minute workouts, and we don't take it too seriously, and there's lots of options. If you hate HIIT, you don't have to do it. Do strength, or whatever you want to do. And there's recipes that aren't chicken and broccoli, that with flavor, and it's things that your whole family can eat. And there's meditations on there because our mental health is really important. And I suppose we just wanted to really create this safe place with KIC where people could come and wherever they're at on their journey in their life with their health, doesn't matter, they can come and plug in. Maybe they might want to do 2 workouts a week, and that's what works for them, and that's okay. Or they might want to do 5. But I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that, especially with our health, every single person is different in what they can do and what can fit into their life. And the balance that works for me is not going to work for every single listener. For me, I love running. I run quite often. But I think with, for some people, they might hate running, and that's okay because something else might work for them. And I think, it's hard because there's no, as I'm sure you speak about a lot, there's no solution to balance. It's just finding out what works for you. And I think ensuring that you're not doing what the person next to you is doing, because we're all so different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's less of the fact that there's no solution. I think it's more there's no one size fits all, and it's not a static concept, right? It's constantly changing. So you could feel, okay, I'm super balanced now because I know what my body needs in down times and whatever, but that's going to change as well. So I think when I think of balance, it's really like that flexibility piece. But I love that you sort of reflected on an earlier experience. And I sort of also had a similar journey. Like I sort of was really restricting dieting, really heavy training, and doing like body scans. And I remember I had this experience where I felt like I looked the best I ever had, and my energy was incredible. Like I was like, this is going to be the in-body scan I do that's going to be the best result ever. And it printed, and it was the worst. It was like my highest body fat I'd ever been. And from that moment, when I stepped off the thing, I just said, you know what the hell is this number? Because it's not reflective at all of what I'm feeling inside, how much energy I've got, how much, self-love I have. There's no judgment. There's a lot of kindness there for myself. But in saying that, I think you have to go through moments like that to be able to then turn around and extend that kindness to yourself. So a big part of balance is those downs as much as those ups. But thank you so much for, I guess, opening up about your own journey and experience with balance. Steph, what would you sort of say, I guess, your current or past journey with balance has been?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I feel like I've come a long way with balance for both, I suppose, when you're looking at balance from a health perspective and then also work-life balance. I've realized that, as you said, the perfect balance doesn't exist. You've got to kind of have a flexible balance, and it's got to be what works for you. And I think with health, as I said earlier, I'm someone that eats chocolate every day. Not everyone can do that, and not everyone likes doing that. But for me, that works for my mental health and everything. I know it's not the most nutritious food, but it makes me happy, and it's my favorite way to end the day. But for me, it's, I've come a long way to get to that point. Much like Laura, I had a pretty horrible relationship with food where there's no way I would have had chocolate unless it was like some health nut, organic, 0 sugar, random
90% dark. No,
yeah, 99%. Yeah. And even that I would like limit, and, the exercise, as Laura said, like 2 hours a day. And I was living in New York at the time, so I'd make sure that I was walking all day, every day, everywhere, just to burn more. And it was all because my worth was linked to the way I looked, because I was full-time modeling at the time, and it was all I cared about. And the interesting thing, the moment that I kind of snapped out of it was when I came home. And as Laura said, when I say snapped out of it, it's when I realized that I had a bit of an issue. It's not, one day I just woke up and didn't have a problem anymore. It was definitely a journey to kind of come to this point that I am now. But it was when I'd come home and the pressure wasn't on me as much as it was with my agent over there. Over there, I was getting measured twice a week, kind of like your body scans. I had this constant pressure to improve, in quotation marks, and lose more weight, and this external pressure from my agency saying I wasn't good enough. And then I came home and started working with, the clients that liked me for me here in Australia again. And I started to feel better about myself instantly, even though I started putting on weight. And that's when I, much like yourself, realized like, okay, well, I'm obviously not my happiest when I'm that skinny. What's more important? Yeah. And so, yeah, balance with food and exercise. I feel like I'm in a really, really good place. And I think particularly after going through pregnancy and obviously having to slow down in many ways with my fitness, and be a lot more relaxed with food, because let's face it, pregnancy cravings aren't always whole foods. It's at an even more balanced approach now. I'm just so content again and happy with where I'm at. And work-life balance is pretty similar as well. Like as I said earlier, I've learned that I need to have some time and step back a little bit to, I suppose, have a bit of balance. I know that there is going to be busier times, and that's okay. But as you said, as long as I've got my toes in a little bit of family time or a little bit of me time, I know I can perform really well. If I'm all in with work and I haven't got any time for myself or my family, that's when I struggle to be my best. So but I think the really important thing is everyone's balance is so different. Like the way we all work and function and what balance is going to work for me is just not going to work for someone else. So I think you just come to a point in life where you work it out.
Yeah. And then as soon as you work it out, it bloody changes again. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I think based off what you've both said, I love asking these questions to the guests that come on, because everyone has such a different take. Some people say balance is a fulfillment thing. Some people say it's a happiness thing. But I think just based off what you both sort of said, I think it's more an acceptance thing. I think we could maybe all agree. It's more like coming to this place where you appreciate where you are and you treat yourself with kindness. I think that's the main thing. I always think like, how would I speak to my future child or my younger self? And it's just about saying, okay, I'm not perfect, but this is what I need right now. This is what I need today. And that's different to yesterday, or it's different to what Steph and Laura said on that podcast, but I think it's all about like taking things with a grain of salt. Like people can spit out their perfect morning routine and you can try that and it might work for you and it might not, but it's just about really bringing that flexibility and I think acceptance.
Just a quick word from the sponsor of today's podcast. If you haven't paid any attention to the quality of your gym accessories or feel like the ones you have kill your vibe just a little, then this is for you. ESFit is a brand I've co-founded with my best friend to bring all fitness lovers the confidence to sweat in style. I'm talking considered luxe fitness accessories, ranging from cotton bands that don't roll or dig to full-size sweat towels that cover you from head to toe and actually don't take up all the space in your bag. The list goes on, but you can check it all out for yourself at esfit.com.au or on Instagram at esfit_. And for all my beautiful balancers, we're offering $15 off at the checkout when you use the code BALANCE.
All right, beautiful. So now I have just a question for each of you, because obviously I've been following both of your journeys for a very long time. So I'm personally curious about both of you, aside from KIC as well. So I might start with Laura. Obviously we have commonality in the legal space. So I know you finished your degree recently. So congratulations. I know how arduous, onerous, and intense that degree is. So big congrats to you. I guess what I want to know, and I'm really curious, what drove you to finish that law degree, knowing that you already have a successful business? And I ask this because now that I've got a business on the side, I mean, if it was at the scale and place that KIC is at whilst I was at uni, I don't know if I would have had the motivation to finish it off, because it's quite an intense degree. And I guess this is tapping into what motivates you. So I'm really curious as to, I guess, what helped you finish that degree, or what was your driver, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, one of the biggest drivers, and as you would know from doing a law degree, is some of the subjects that I went through that I strongly disliked them. I left admin law till the end. I literally have put it off, and I did it in my last semester or my second last, but I think that was one thing driving that I'd come so far, and I was pretty close. It was hard. I mean, obviously, to be completely transparent, I had a lot less balance in my life when I was doing that as I do now. You can't be a part of running business and then also study a law degree and have a really amazing social life. It just doesn't work. Something has to give. But I suppose I was willing to sacrifice it. I personally I really value the education and the challenge. I think I really like being challenged, and it really did challenge me. And I think as well, it challenged me in a way that I could, get things wrong in class, and it didn't cost anyone anything. If I get something wrong with what we're doing at KIC, that could, cost the business a lot of money, or it could affect, a team member, or, whatever that might be. But I mean, the best thing with uni is that you're not really affecting anyone except yourself. And if you fail, I actually didn't fail any subjects, but if I had, it would have been okay, because I would have just been able to do it again. While yes, HECS debt is,
I was going to say, just bump up the HECS, whatever.
Yeah, still paying it off. But apart from that, I think, that helped me get through. And then I think as well, there was probably a little bit of, and I'm not sure if I was conscious of this at the time, but reflecting back on it now, I think as I suppose I kind of touched on before about being a woman in business, there's almost this, I have this inherent feeling that I need to prove myself to be worthy. And I think my finishing my law degree was a part of that, knowing that I felt like to be able to be worthy of, be a part of conversations or have a seat at the table or whatever, I needed to finish that. And I think it's interesting. It definitely hasn't made me feel any more worthy or valid in those spaces. It has definitely helped. I mean, we obviously, running a business, legal is a big part of it. So it's helped in that way, absolutely. So I definitely don't regret it. But I think subconsciously, I felt like I also needed to finish it for other people as well. And I do wonder if my gender was different, if I would have felt that way, but I suppose I'll never know.
Yeah, super interesting. Well, look, for what it's worth, it's a great degree to have under your belt. But I just thought that was super interesting, and don't know if I would have done the same thing at that time. So thanks for sharing that. Now, one for you, Steph. I want to know, what was the moment you decided to pivot into business, and what kind of inspired you to do that?
Well, first of all, I had never ever imagined myself being an entrepreneur. I thought I'd start with that because in high school I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I had an interest in the modeling industry since I was a little girl. Like I knew that was something I wanted to try when I had time, but other than that, I had interest in children. I thought maybe I'd be a PE teacher, or something to do with animals, or something to do with art. I was really arty. I just had no idea. And I think I wanted to start with that because I didn't study business. I wasn't very good at maths or science, or I don't know. I feel like I doubted myself a lot in high school because all of the subjects I was really, I suppose, gifted at were the more creative subjects, or what some people labeled as like the dumb people subjects, because I wasn't super academic. And it was something that I pretended I was totally okay with in high school. Like I played it cool and pretended I didn't care, but I definitely felt, I don't know, I felt like people looked at me in a certain way and would probably look at me now and be incredibly surprised that I run a business, be that teachers or just people that I wasn't really friends with that judged me. But I wanted to start there because I felt like going into business, I have always had a lot of doubt in myself and my ability because I didn't study any of those things. I didn't go to uni after high school. And I think going into modeling and being an influencer and everything over the years prior to Keep It Cleaner launching, as Laura touched on earlier, there's this judgment people make, especially on influencers, that you are not maybe, I don't know, doing as much behind the scenes as you're trying to come off as you are, or, you might just be the face of something and that's not enough. And I really put a lot of pressure on myself through that because it's like I've had this drive to prove to people that I'm more than that, when really there's nothing wrong as well. Like if I just wanted to keep modeling, there's really nothing wrong with that being your full-time career. I mean, it's something I still really, really enjoy. I've always loved it, but it just wasn't fulfilling me in the same way as it used to. And I think that's just because my priorities in life shifted to less selfish ones. I get a lot more joy out of helping other people than I do with feeling good on a set. So I think what happened with modeling and where the switch came from was I was really enjoying it. I was making a lot of connections. I was learning quite a lot about, the fashion industry and, working with huge companies and actually learning a little bit about the back end of marketing and everything as well. I started to have a little bit of interest in the way that all worked. And I started to get a lot of people and companies not only paying me to be on set with them, but also to endorse their products on social media. And I kind of learned the power of having an influence and having an engaged audience. And through that, I kind of thought, you know, I've constantly got people asking me, you know, for recipes or things that I'm wearing or advice on things. Surely there is some way I can capitalize on this and do something outside of modeling, because I wasn't studying. And a lot of people, you know, I was a busy model, but you still need something else to do on the side. Like, you can't be a full-time model. When I was a full-time model and that was all I was doing, that's when my mind was focused on just the way I looked, and that wasn't healthy for me. So a lot of models, you know, do studying on the side or another part-time job. And for me, I just really wanted to find something else that I was really passionate about that took my mind away from modeling. And that's where I turned to, you know, possibly using my profile in a way that benefited me and also helped others. And it was around the same time that, you know, I met Laura, and we went through those kind of negative journeys through eating. And I just wanted to create something with Laws that helped other people. And, you know, it didn't start as a business project. Keep It Cleaner was not, we didn't project that all of this would happen. It was a passion project, something for us to do on the side, as I said, something to keep my mind off modeling. And it ended up being, you know, one of the best things I've ever done in life. And, you know, that question in the back of my mind, I suppose, of, you know, do I think I'm worthy enough to label myself as a co-founder or an entrepreneur or, you know, whatever you want to call me. I still have that self-judgment and self-doubt for sure. It still pops up on days. But I think what I've come to realize is there is so many ways to run a business. There are so many different ways to, I suppose, be an important role in a business as well. Like, they don't all have to look the same, and you don't have to be, I mean, that's the best thing about Laura being my business partner. We are so different in our skill sets. You know, there's obviously a lot that overlap, like our drive and I suppose our morals and everything. But other than that, we have very different skill sets, and that's awesome. You know, for a long time, I was incredibly envious of Laura's skill sets, and I thought she was way more credible than me. And it's funny that she touched on law kind of maybe in the back of her mind, thinking that that was something she was doing so that she was, I suppose, more important or could speak up. I felt that as well. Like, I always thought, no, this is something Laura should handle because she's more credible or she's more worthy to be here than I am. But that was all that's never come from anyone else. That's all stuff I made up in my own head. So I think I've gone really off track from your question.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You've actually, you've actually brought up something that I saw as a commonality between both of you. And I think it's something a lot of people struggle with, and that is your value is dependent on your output. And I think a lot of the times that drives us to do things that we think will appease other people's opinions and really don't focus on our own. And I think that, you know, what that does is it puts into question your self-worth, and it makes you have those limiting beliefs and those thoughts. So I guess both of you now, in hindsight, seeing that about yourselves. And look, let's not downplay the, I'm going to say that it has its value, right? I heard this thing the other day, and they were talking about limiting beliefs, and we always look at limiting beliefs and we go, they're the worst things ever. But when you look at, say, like A-type people, a limiting belief can actually push you to do something, right? To finish something, to change a career, to do those sorts of things. But the reason they're a limiting belief is because they have their limits. It can only take you so far. And then you have to part with that limiting belief to go further and beyond that. But I think you've both sort of had that experience. And so I'm just wondering if you would have any words of wisdom or imparting knowledge to anyone sort of struggling with those limiting beliefs and self-doubts, noting that they don't go away. You know, you just learn how to manage them, or you acknowledge that they come up from time to time. But really, for people who are in the thick of it now and wanting to make that change or wanting to finish something off, do you guys have anything that you would say to those people?
I mean, that's such a good question. And I think for me, it would be that, especially, I mean, bringing, I suppose, imposter syndrome into it, which is something that a lot of people, and Steph and I have spoken about it quite a bit. I mean, it's kind of the ethos of, well, not the ethos, but the base of what a lot of the things we've said and where those insecurities come from is that we don't believe we're worthy to be where we are. And I think for me, what really helped me when I say get through it, again, it never goes away. And I think, you know, as a really driven person and as you said, having those limiting beliefs do help you to drive even more. But with imposter syndrome, especially if you go on TED Talks and you look at who speaks about it, the most successful people in the world have limiting beliefs. And I think it's okay. I think you just need to use it to your advantage. And I think Steph and I have done that in so many ways. And I think one thing that is so nice, Steph, was at the start when you said that you're really content right now. I completely agree with that. And I think it's interesting because I didn't think that, and I feel exactly the same, but I didn't believe that you could be content and also be driven at the same time. And you absolutely can. And I think it's a really, really nice place to be, knowing that you're content in your life, but you do have ambitions, and it's okay to have ambitions without, I suppose, not valuing all the people around you and wanting more and more and more. I don't think we think that way anymore. And again, I think now I've gone off track with the question, but I think for anyone listening to this, just know that, there's no limit on what you are capable of. It doesn't matter what your background is or, how old you are, all of those things that I think society sets as things that hold us back and barriers, they're not there to hold you back. Don't see them as a barrier, see them as something that you can be driven to overcome. And I think as well, if we look back on just the change in, even especially with gender equality over the past 50 years, if you look back to where we were 50 years ago, we've come so far. And the only reason we have come so far is because we pushed for change. And so it's so important to never let, I suppose, the standards that society has for us right now, don't let that define what you could be, because I think we would never evolve if we always thought that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've also identified something important there, and that is, I think we look at the hustle, right? And we think that is a periodic thing. And at the end of it is this success and reward, right? But I think when you get in the motions of doing it, you realize that comes in the process. It's every day. It's the unexpected business stuff ups that you have to deal with and just wing on the spot, because I don't have a business degree either. It's those sorts of things that over time they form part of the process. That's actually what fulfills you. So I think it's a nice point, because even like this is a whole separate podcast in and of itself, like talking about, say, like money and having financial goals and stuff, like there's a lot of negativity around that and having those desires. And I think the same goes for, say, like ambition. And so to understand that you can have those things and be balanced and content, I think is a really humbling thing to hear, especially from you two, who a lot of people, may look to you as role models, or, just generally you would form their definition of success, and noting that is different for everybody. I think that's super humbling to hear. So I'm really glad you sort of have those thoughts that align really nicely with everything we do as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's really nice. I think what you guys touched on, it's about appreciating. I think when it comes to drive and ambition, it is about appreciating the journey. And I think for us, with work, I know I do this, and I think Laura does the same. It's you constantly check in and be proud of even the littlest things, because I think if you're only focused on one big goal that's pretty far away, if you don't get there, you're just constantly going to be disappointed. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge the little wins along the journey, because if we never get to our big goal, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, because we've enjoyed the process. If it was all we were focusing on and we weren't, checking in and appreciating what we have done and how far we have come along the way, it would be a lot harder. So yeah, I liked that you mentioned that.
Yeah. And a flip on that is, and I guess you both have this experience with your modeling careers, right? If you're just focused on, say, booking that job, and the process is so unenjoyable, when you get there, you're actually probably not even going to enjoy getting that job. You're just going to be focusing on the next thing, because enjoyment really does come from the process. So I think everyone listening probably has a similar experience when you get something. It could even be as simple as like you just online shop, right? And you buy that thing, you've hyped yourself up to buy it, and then you get it, and it just like, goes away after a day, and you're looking for the next thing. I think that comes from when you're not present in the journey and enjoying it along the way. So totally agree with you both there. Now, I know I actually put a lot more questions on this list, but I know we are limited for time. So I might just ask you both one more thing. And I think this is something anybody at any point in their life will deal with, and that is, how do you deal with negativity? And now this could be open question, could be internal negativity towards yourself, social, online type thing, or just generally in life.
It depends on the day. Yeah, the way I deal with negativity, especially external negativity, from, you know, maybe trolls online, for an example, yeah, it really depends on where I'm at in that day. If I'm in a really good place, my way of dealing with it is just completely ignoring it, blocking and deleting and pretending I never saw it, or avoiding seeing it, you know, before it even happens. Like at the moment, I've got limits on my DMs so that kind of stuff doesn't come through, because for me, I just don't have the time or energy to read that kind of negativity. I want to be spending my energy elsewhere. But then there's other days where I'm not really feeling that great, and I might be down for whatever reason. And if someone cuts me while I'm down, I really struggle to just ignore it. I might not respond to them. I still might not respond, because I've learned that very rarely actually feels any better. Even if they turn around and apologize, you still don't really feel satisfied. And then a lot of the time they actually come back even harder, and that's just even worse. So a lot of the time I've learned not to respond, but a lot of the time on my down days, it really just ponders in the back of my mind, and I really question myself, and I really read into what they've said, and I really think like, oh my God, are they right? Are they thinking that? Is there other people that think this? Have I done the wrong thing? And then I just get in this spiral of questioning what I'm doing. And I think that's not really healthy for anyone. So I do prefer my method on my better days. And I think there is ways of, you know, controlling what comes through, as I said, like limiting DMs. And I think from now on, I am going to look to implement a lot of that sort of stuff into my life, because I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better in myself and who I am, and a lot more confident in what I put out there, when I can still take constructive criticism, but I'm not getting that kind of useless negativity.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love that you split that into on your good days and bad days, because it just goes to show that like you can be balanced, but that's what forms a part of it. You're always up and down. So that's good too. And I think when people are looking at like their routine or their non-negotiables, or, you know, their toolkit that they have there for themselves when they are feeling down, like that's going to vary depending on where you're at as well. So I love that. Laura, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think as Steph said, so Steph taught me about this limiting of DMs last week, and I am a
Tell me about this. I haven't heard of it.
So you can change in your settings and your privacy. So people that don't follow you, because really the hate comes from people who don't follow you. If you're not following someone, obviously you don't engage with what they're doing. You also don't have full context about what they do or who they are. So that's often where really unwarranted, unhelpful, and unconstructive feedback comes in. So you can block people, not block them, but limit them from DMing you if they don't follow you. And then you can also limit DMs from people who just follow you in the past week or something. I haven't done that yet because I haven't needed to, because I actually haven't had, since I've turned this on, it's my DMs. Not that I get a lot of bad DMs, but sometimes I do. And I haven't really had any, which has been so lovely. So that's number one. But I think as well, if I just want to say as well that, kind of as Steph said, with good and bad days, I have days where if I get a DM where there's an opinion on something, kind of as Steph was saying, I can take that stranger's opinion and end up in a spiral by the end of the day or the week. Sometimes I really ponder on things for a month. Then Steph will be like, Laura, why did you not speak to me about this? You need to get this out of your head. And I'm questioning if I need to, like, I don't know, quit my life and start a new one because I am not worthy for the life that I have. Like, I literally, it is, and it sounds so funny and I laugh about it now, but like legitimately, sometimes that is my brain. And so I just think it's important to acknowledge that, like, yeah, as you said, the balance is not always there. Sometimes managing and dealing with negative feedback is really hard. But I think also it's important to be able to identify when stuff's constructive, because the only way, you know, we can, well, not the only way, but a big way as people, you know, in our careers or in all aspects of our life that we improve is by, you know, we're not perfect. We have so much to learn. So I think it's important not to block that out completely, but yeah, blocking out strangers from my DMs is really the solution for me at the moment.
I think as well, like on the whole chat of negativity, because I know that you were saying it was kind of, the question was coming from an angle not just about, you know, online trolls or anything like that. I would say that negativity, internal negativity, is happening I was going to say a little bit less these days, but it's just happening a little differently. Like, I think the times when I'm negative towards myself is it's about different things. Like, for example, right now I question, if I'm doing the right thing through motherhood, and that happens daily, but I'm quicker to kind of snap myself out of it. I used to really ponder on things and internal negative thoughts and really not be able to pull myself out of them. And I've figured out ways like moving my body or, talking to a friend or watching a Disney movie, like little things that I have in my life that kind of ground me and bring me back to a healthier headspace. And I can kind of, not get rid of the negativity, the internal negativity altogether. It's always going to be there. We're always going to have like insecurities about what we do or even what we look like, but I'm able to push them to the back of my mind and move on and think more positively a lot quicker these days, I think, because I'm implementing all of these, healthy balances into my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you girls so much for your time. I know our audience would have gotten so much out of today's chat. And for anyone who hasn't checked out your podcast, I will pop a link to that in the show notes below so they can see all the incredible work you're doing over there as well. If people want to connect with you both either individually or follow your KIC journey, where's the best place they can do so?
So they can find us on Instagram at Keep It Cleaner, and then our website is www.keepitcleaner.com.au, and we're also in the App Store. And then you can also, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm doing our outro of our podcast.
Yeah.
I go into this mode of go, and you can follow
Leave us a review.
But Steph Claire Smith, and mine is Laura.Henshaw. Thank you so much for having us, Erica. It was so nice to chat to you.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much.
And that's a wrap for this week, Balancers. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this episode useful to some degree in either steering or determining your definition of balance today. As always, the biggest compliment for us is if you share this episode with someone who you feel might need it, or if you're on Spotify, you can click follow, or on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a rating or review. If you have any suggestions for up and coming podcasts, feel free to shoot us a DM or an email. Our Instagram is @TheBalanceTheory and our email is thebalancetheorypodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, you've always got the option of subscribing to our mailing list. We only send you email reminders when the episodes drop, so you get them fresh out of the oven. No annoying spam, we promise. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time, stay balanced.